I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Miss Gloria Vanderhorst. Gloria has gained wisdom through 50 years of experience working with preschoolers through adults in her dynamic psychology practice. Her current focus is on the emotional development of men and boys and how the cultural role robs males of access to the full range of emotions, leaving them handicapped. She is
Mhm.
also the author of a New York Times bestselling journal book called Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of Growth and Change. So thank you, Gloria, so much for coming on today and taking the time out of your schedule to come on today. I can't wait to hear this um, interesting concept about how you got into this study. So welcome to the show. And
Thank you, Noah. I am glad to be here, and it will be fun to talk about men and boys today.
so give the listeners a little overview about yourself and go into a little bit more detail about what you do.
Well, I am a psychologist, but right, I started through college with the desire to be a math teacher. I loved math. Math was easy for me, and I had tons of fun with math. So even, from high school on, I wanted to be a high school math teacher. And I took psychology as my minor because it was a relief, right? It was kind of an easy shift away from the intensity of math. And I came across a teacher in calculus 2 that made math so difficult that I ended up switching my major and minor, and I have never looked back. I've been grateful for that experience that I could end up in a place that I never anticipated that I would be, but it's been a perfect fit. And I think there are probably tons of people out there that could tell you a parallel story, right? Where they're invested in some particular direction, think this is their fate, and then something happens in the course of their lives and makes a complete turnaround. And that happened for me. And that's how I ended up in psychology. I've been delighted with my profession.
What's been some lessons that you've learned during your practice, and what has surprised you the most?
I think the thing that has surprised me the most is the learning from preschool boys. I started my individual practice working with preschool boys because I had a friend who ran a preschool, and most preschools are run by women and taught by women. And so boys are a little bit more rambunctious, more active, they have more energy. So they're going to stand out, they're going to get the attention of the teacher, and the teacher's going to ask for help. All right, help me with this boy. He's, too much to handle. And so I started evaluating preschool boys and learned so much from preschool boys. It's amazing. All right. And what I learned is that not only are they full of energy and they need to move and they need to express themselves, but they have a broader range of emotional expression. So, in order to work with a preschool boy, I had to dive into the literature and learn more about males in general from infancy forward. And the literature is really clear that boys come into this world with a broader range of emotional expression than girls, which is kind of shocking, right? You would think they're human, right? So boys and girls probably have the same emotional range when they're born, but not true. Boys have a broader emotional range when they're born. So, how does that land on you to think about that?
I didn't. It's interesting to hear that because school doesn't really teach that to us.
Hmm.
And so learning kind of this psychology about it, I'm trying to think. I think there was one time I took a psychology class and it was in college for like an elective or like
Hmm.
as a fill-in. And we didn't really discuss any of this. So hearing this kind of is very interesting to me. Um, because at such a young age you don't know half the stuff that you're doing and all
Right.
this stuff. So it's
Right.
shocking to see that we go through a lot at a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
Through this whole journey as or in your career, what's been some of the main problems older males face once they kind of get into adult life? What's been some of the recurring problems you've seen in males?
Yeah, relationship building is a recurring problem. Building relationship with the opposite sex is difficult, and there's building relationship with the same sex has some very interesting rules to it that eliminate emotional intimacy. Intimacy happens in ritual ways rather than in deeper emotional ways. And this is important because the truth is that boys are born with a broader range of emotional expression. And because most infant care is through mother, although that's changing over the course of time, there are many more stay-at-home dads, which I think is a good thing. But without intending to do it, mothers limit the emotional range of a male infant. They're not used to um, the higher range of intensity. They're not used to the lower range of intensity. And so, without really intending to do it, the reactions that they give, maybe it's a change in facial expression, maybe it's a subtle movement back, all right? Maybe it's a turning aside from the infant. Infants use emotional intelligence as their only survival tool. So they're reading the human beings in their environment because they're highly dependent on them. So when mother gives basically, I don't like that kind of signal by turning her head or moving back, the infant, in its brilliant wisdom, learns, oops, don't do that again. All right. And so boys end up cutting off the upper range and the lower range of emotional expression as an infant. And then in the culture as a whole, when they start to walk and move around, We have very different expectations for boys and girls. We expect to nurture a girl's feeling states and be interested in the full range of feelings. If she's sad or hurt as a preschooler, we want to pay a lot of attention to that. If a boy is sad or hurt as a preschooler, he generally gets encouraged to just, suck it up, turn around, go back, play with the other kids. Doesn't get the emotional attention that that really deserves. And so, twice now, we've used the culture to limit the emotional knowledge of the boy. And then when they grow up, we suddenly expect that to magically disappear, right? And they should be able to be responsive to their partner's emotions, male or female. They should be able to express themselves in emotional ways. It's not possible, right? We cut that off. So you can't magically have it reappear. Our jails are full of men for this very reason, right? They don't have a way of expressing their emotional need. And so they use their bodies, they use force, they use volume. It gets them into trouble. And women, unfortunately, um, say that they want more emotional expression from their spouses. But honestly, if you pay attention to how a wife processes more intimate feeling statements or needs from a male, she is not really responsive to it. So the guy comes home from work, right? Has had a really bad experience at work, makes some statement about that. All right, I get into trouble with Joe today, and maybe my job's at risk. I just don't know. And what does she say? Yeah, sorry to hear that. Things will work out. There's not a deeper dive into what he has disclosed. She doesn't know how to make that deeper dive. So we just keep perpetuating these emotional differences between the sexes, and we keep raising men in such a way that they cannot access the full range of their feeling statement. And it's not a healthy thing to do in the long run.
You brought up a good point about how males tend to be shamed or they feel
Mhm.
insecure about opening up and saying their feelings because it kind of would ruin their image.
Right.
Have you seen a change in seeing men kind of open up more their feelings more and not be ashamed of, or is there still a large volume of men that tend to just keep everything bottled up?
There's a shift taking place, right? Because there are organizations established for men that have both educational components, group components, retreat components, with the intention of educating men and giving them permission to tap into the broad range of feeling states and own them, right? Be comfortable with them. So when you can do that in a group of other men, uh, then you can transfer it out into a group outside of that. And there are great organizations now establishing themselves all throughout the United States with men's groups, men's retreats, uh, and that's a very important movement for the male population. I think it will continue.
How big of a role does mental health play in your studies and in the volumes of men? Have you seen which age group does mental health play a really big factor in?
So, mental health is critical for everyone. Um, and for men, because we have set them up not to be able to take ownership of their feeling states, then you can imagine that there are going to be more mental health issues for men, and more stress responses. Men, however, do not tend to seek help for that. Instead, it tends to get translated into physical complaints, which will always be the case, right? We are constructed, our brains are made to have feelings, a full range of feelings. And if we don't pay attention to those directly, then they will manifest in terms of body complaints, aches, pains, heart attacks, right? Physical difficulties, ulcers, um, all because we're, not really paying attention to the mental health needs of the population. So it's critical.
In your opinion, why is connection with others so important?
Why is connection important? Wow, what a powerful question. We are born connected to another human being. And in fact, the research shows we have memories of connection in utero in the last trimester. Um, and because we're born connected to another person, we have this natural desire to reestablish connection. And the way that we do that is to reestablish emotional connection. You commonly see babies who are adopted, wanting to seek out their birth parent. Now, if we didn't have this intuitive need for connection, I don't think that would be happening. We have an inborn need for connection, and we understand ourselves through connection with other people. So it's a powerful force in our lives. Very few people are capable of living in isolation in any form of a healthy way. We always want to seek connection.
So, what is it about men and boys that you're interested in studying compared to for girls and women? Have you considered studying the female aspect as well, or do they have more of a advanced
I think
approach you have to do?
I think I will be more interested in studying the female connection when I have finished describing the male connection, because there's with artificial intelligence, the lives of all human beings are going to change. It's kind of the way that lives changed when television and internet got established in the late 1940s, early 1950s. Everything about communication and interaction with each other was changed and modified. Artificial intelligence is the next wave of that. One of the things that it's going to do is that it's going to give us more time to have interactions with other people. If I have a robot making my dinner, I have more time to interact with my family. And so we need to be focused on how will people interact with each other? How will emotional needs be met when we have more of this opportunity to connect with each other? And so my interest in men and boys is that they have been not only neglected, but they have been trained to shut down emotional states. So I want to help fathers to facilitate turning those emotional states on or keeping them on with their young boys so that these boys grow up to be men who are much better prepared to be in an environment where there's going to be a lot more interpersonal interaction, a lot more requirement for interpersonal interaction. I want that to be healthy, not scary or dangerous.
How can a person challenge themselves to grow or start? Maybe they have been dealing with a lot of issues.
Mhm.
What's a way that they can start now and helping themselves grow and become a better person or better version of themselves?
One is just to be able to do what you just said, right? Which is to say to myself, to say to yourself, I need to grow, right? What I was taught growing up cannot be the end state. So I was taught as a male not to cry, not to have emotional needs, all right? And certainly if I have them, not to express them. So the change that has to take place is to first recognize I want something different. I'm not content with where I am. And then the book that I've published is actually a fabulous second step. The book is a journal book, but it's very different from the typical journal book. It has essays on one page, and the facing page is blank with a few stimulating questions. It's the blank that's powerful because most journal books have lines. They expect you to be writing, to use language, but you have so much held in your brain in ways that are not language, all right, in terms of pictures and actions. We use language, we use pictures, and we use motion to represent the world around us. And so the blank page lets you respond to the essay with words if you want, but those words don't have to conform to a line. They could be big, they could be small, and with drawing and with intensity. Maybe this essay just hits me in a way that I just feel, "Ugh," right? And all I want to do is "Ugh," on the page. That's fabulous, all right? Because that gives you clear information about something that you've been holding in your brain that you need to pay attention to. So the book is called Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of growth and change. And that's a fabulous place to start. Joining a men's group, whether it's a men's group that I've talked about that you can find on the internet, a men's group that has educational parts and has group parts to it. It's fabulous. Could be a men's group in your church or your community, but being together with other men and challenging each other to be more transparent, to be more interested in what's happening in your body and in your feeling states is very powerful. And I think as men do that, they'll be much more interested in reading. There are lots of books out there right now. It's very popular and lots of literature, both uh, research literature and non-research literature that's talking about the importance of men understanding themselves, identifying their feeling states, developing better relationships, both with themselves, with their peers, with their spouses, with their children. So there's a groundswell of interest in developing the emotional capability of the male population. So as people become interested in understanding themselves better, the whole culture benefits.
So when you started writing the book, was it difficult to write it, or was it really easy to get the general idea of how you wanted to publish the book? And just explain to me a little bit more about how the publishing
Yeah, the
history
book
was.
itself, if you were, the book's been easy, right? Because what I have been doing for the last few years is writing a blog. Well, a blog is an essay. And after accumulating several of these, I decided I'll put them together in a book that challenges people to grow emotionally, to really reflect on different emotional aspects of themselves. So I collected 52 of the blogs, the essays that I had already published, and put them together in a book. I now have collected a second set of 52, and I'm in the process of putting that together in another book. And in the course of doing all of that and really enjoying writing, that's when I decided to take the benefit of the education that I've been privileged to receive from the clients that I've worked with. So I told you I started with preschool boys, and after a few years of evaluating preschool boys, I discovered that their fathers were putting themselves on my calendar. So I had a series of years where my calendar was almost exclusively filled by adult men. And that gave me an incredible education about how adult men function in this culture and what are their pain points and what are their needs and how they can often translate emotional energy into physical problems. And that's powerful.
So do you see yourself being kind of a author in the long term, or where do you see yourself in the future? Depending on do you want to keep studying psychology? Do you want to try to change kind of into more of a different gender, different age group? What's your plans for, I guess, for your future career?
Well, thanks to COVID, my practice is now all online. And that is successful with adults, not with children. So all of my practice now is with adolescent, college age, and adults. I see individuals and couples. I love doing the work. I don't see myself ever stopping doing this work because it's needed and I love doing it. But I also like to write, and the writing seems to come to me fairly easily. So I do see myself continuing to publish blogs, put books together, as I am kind of committed to sharing information with a broader audience. So all of the information that I get to share is done one-on-one or one to a couple, right? And so this gives me an opportunity to take my knowledge base and share it with anybody and everybody who wants to benefit from it.
What's the main message and idea that you would like to leave, that you hope people gain from reading the book, and maybe if they want to do like one-on-one discussions with you, what's the big main idea that you would like people to take away from?
I want everybody to know that it is possible to grow. Our brains hold on to everything that we have experienced from, as I said, in utero, but definitely early childhood. And those experiences can jump into the present and undermine us, impact us in negative ways. So, as we focus on understanding our own history, we get an opportunity to see the connection between early experiences and present ways that we interact with other people. So there's definitely a connection. There's a chain from early childhood to the present, and we get to choose whether we want to hold on to that way of being or whether we want to modify it in some way. So growth is possible at any age. There's no one out there who can benefit from learning more about themselves historically and emotionally and how their family dynamics and other forms of interaction are impacting them today. And the more that you can see the connections between early childhood or important, serious parts of your life and how you interact with people today, the easier it is to change and strengthen and improve the relationships, all right, which goes back to the fact we're born connected to another person. We spend our lives seeking connection. So let's make that connection as positive, as beneficial, as loving, as interesting as it can possibly be. And that's my hope.
Well, Gloria, I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing this. It's such an interesting topic to hear about because it's something that I don't think the general public knows about, and
That's
like
right.
especially for men.
Mhm.
So this would be great information. If people would like to, if someone's listening and they have questions about this study, and they might have just general questions about maybe they were taught this thing, and that when you said something it sparked kind of a different opinion, where can people contact you, and if they have questions, where can they reach you? And as always, feel free to promote your book as well, for your book's available, and just promote everything that you have going on to where people can find you and support you.
The easiest way to find me is through my website, and it's www.drvanderhorst.com. So it's www.drvanderhorst.com. You will find opportunity there to put yourself on my calendar, to send messages. You'll also find a ton of things to read and to educate yourself about therapy. And there are a series of all the blogs are posted there as well. So it's a great resource, and I would be happy to connect with anybody and help anybody on their journey forward.
And I will put all of her links in the description box as well. I'll put her website and social media platforms down there as well, so that it's available for you, and there'll be a chance for you to, and it's all easy access. I'll also will put her book link in there as well. So if you'd like to read the book and promote it, it'll be down there as well. Um, you can more than welcome to follow me on social media as well. Instagram, TikTok is Lethal Venom Podcast. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube it's Noah's Podcast. Y'all, you more than welcome to follow it if you'd like to keep updates about the podcast on the social media side. And then, as always, you can listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcast from. I'm available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's everywhere, so feel free to subscribe so you get notified of when new episodes come out. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in for today's episode. Y'all have a great rest of your day, week, weekend, and I will see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.